and welcome back to my channel and for another week of the SPL Premier League Draft League season. I'm excited to be here as a part of the SPL season number 3, which is going to be a VGC season featuring 10 singles creators and 10 doubles competitive Pokemon players. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm a little sick, so I'm hoping that this isn't something that will actually affect the video, but yeah, if you guys hear me cough or like I look a little dead inside, yeah, it's just because I'm sick. But anyways, for this week, we are going to be playing against THATSAPlusONE, and I'm definitely nervous about this week. THATSAPlusONE has gone to multiple different Pokemon regional championships, has done quite well, is a very creative team builder, and he's also been doing phenomenally in the SPL Premier League so far. The team is also quite beastly, and I think just on paper, this is going to be a tough matchup, not just because THATSAPlusONE is a great player, but because the matchup against my team is really not good. I think if we're able to even squeak out a game win, it would be a miracle against this team. The matchup just doesn't feel good. On THATSAPlusONE's the Baton Rouge Butterfreeze, he's got Whimsicott, Regidrago, Jirachi, Weavile, Hisuian Zoroark, Terrakion, Electivire, Chandelure, Gliscor, and Wartortle. Right away, THATSAPlusONE has the option to lean into one of his all-time favorite strategies, Whimsicott with Beat Up, into Justified Terrakion. Terrakion has been one of the most staple VGC Pokemon, just being able to go for things like Rock Slide, and just overall having some good coverage into the VGC meta where it has been prevalent. Whimsicott, of course, not just offering beat up in this situation, but you also have access to Prankster, Tailwind, Taunt, Encore, Sunny Day. There's just so many options that Whimsicott does get access to that we're gonna have to try to play around everything. That's impossible. Whimsicott also has really good offensive coverage with something like Moonblast. That's certainly a way that the Whimsicott can actually deal with quite a few Pokemon on our team. Zarude doesn't want to take one of those. And overall, you're doing very good neutral damage into the rest of the team with that Moonblast. And there's also Regidrago. There's not many ways that we can resist that Pokemon either. Regidrago, where it does find its power in VGC, is being able to go for big dragon energies. Dragon energy is basically just a dragon type water spout, so the more HP the Regidrago has, the more powerful that the dragon energy attack is going to be. And Regidrago also tends to have some really annoying typing for when it chooses a Terra type. Steel Terra is very common on Regidrago, and yes, we have some ways to be able to hit Steel, but overall, it's a great defensive typing that not only can you tear into, but THATSAPlusONE also has naturally in the form of the Jirachi. Jirachi also causes its own problems, not just with the Steel Psychic typing, but because it also has access to the ability Serene Grace, it's going to increase the odds of a secondary effect coming through. If you've watched any of the Sword and Shield competitive play from the last generation of Pokemon, you might remember Serene Grace Togekiss being able to go for air slashes, big flinches. And so when Jirachi gets access to something like Iron Head, that's certainly a strategy that I'm thinking of, is just this Jirachi being able to go for great same type attack bonus moves, as well as making sure that those secondary effects kick in a little bit easier. Hisuian Zoroark is also one of the newer Pokemon that we've seen in competitive play, but what makes it so frightening is not only is it very good at being able to hit hard with special attacks, but because of its illusion ability, you don't actually know if you're seeing the Zoroark or if you're seeing something else. If the Zoroark leads, at least we know once the Zoroark is revealed what THATSAPlusONE would bring in terms of the fourth and final Pokemon for the game plan. But before then, it can be tough to be able to suss out whether or not that is a Hisuian Zoroark. And heading into each game, we are going to need to keep in mind that Hisuian Zoroark could be there, whether we see it in the lead or maybe even in the back. The rest of the team gets rounded out by Electivire, Chandelure, Gliscor, and Wartortle. Not gonna lie to you, I'm not really sure what Wartortle is going to do on this team. We have Water Absorb Lapras, so I feel like Wartortle probably isn't a Pokemon that THATSAPlusONE will consider bringing. But I do think that there is some viability for Electivire, Chandelure, and Gliscor. And honestly, this is what makes prep for this particular matchup so challenging, is THATSAPlusONE has so many different options on his team that he could actually bring as a reliable 6, and we can't counter everything. It's just going to be so tough. We had to lock into our own team of 6 and hope that that's going to be enough to at least get us a game win this week. Chandelure gets access to Trick Room and Imprison. You also just have an enormous special attack stat, so being able to go for things like Shadow Ball, Heat Wave really makes Chandelure a fairly big threat. Especially if you slap on a Choice Scarf, then Chandelure can actually go really fast, and it would be difficult to actually take it out. That is also why we have Ogerpon, but... And then there's the Gliscor. Fun fact, Gliscor was the only Pokemon that I felt like truly got sniped from me in the draft. Gliscor was the Pokemon that my team and I were looking at for having good ground typing, flying type coverage. You also have some really interesting abilities like Hyper Cutter or Sand Veil. And overall, I think that Gliscor is just a super neat Pokemon. So unfortunately, we have to play against it this week. And I definitely need to keep in mind that this Pokemon knows Earthquake. There isn't a whole lot of natural synergy with that on THATSAPlusONE's team, but it doesn't mean that he can't go for something like a Terra Flying or even lean into the other incredible options that Gliscor gets access to. Gliscor is definitely a physical threat, and with just the coverage options that it has, like Lunge, Knockoff, you've got high horsepower and dual wing beat that are both going to be same type of attack bonus damage. But you also have Scale Shot and Double Edge, Throat Chop, Breaking Swipe. It really feels like Gliscor gets basically a move of every single type outside of Fairy. So it can truly be a big threat. So overall, kind of hoping that we don't see the Regidrago. It's going to give us a lot of trouble. Jirachi is very annoying, and then maybe we get a chance to see THATSAPlusONE lean into one of his favorite strategies with the beat up Whimsicott and a Terrakion. And if we see that, we might be able to get a dub. Now let's dive into the team that I'm going to be bringing this week. As a reminder, my roster of the Shoutcasting Sylveons is Ogerpon, Cornerstone, Volcarona, Suicune, Klefki, Hisuian Gudra, Zarude, Palmot, Lapras, Mismagius, and Slitherwing. And this week it's going to be really important for us to have speed control. That's why when you take a look at the composition for this week's team, we're actually going to be running a hybrid Trick Room and Tailwind team. Right out the gates, I want to try to execute a game plan where we're leading with Ogerpon Cornerstone as well as the Klefki, which has the Trick Room this week. And then we have Suicune and Hisuian Gudra in the back so that Suicune can hit Tailwind on the last turn of Trick Room, and then hopefully Hisuian Gudra will be able to get the sweep done inside Trick Room and also once that expires and inside the Tailwind. Palmot and Zarude are on the team just in case I really want to go for some crazy stuff with the Choice Band on the Zarude. We've got Petal Blizzard, U-Turn, Rock Slide, and Knockoff, which gives us a wide variety of options to actually lock into for the Choice Band. And then for Palmot, we have the Iron Fist set again with a Fighting Terra this time around, with things like Fake Out, Mach Punch, and Close Combat, heavily leaning into the fighting capabilities that Palmot does have. But again, I don't really see a world where we're bringing either the Palmot or the Zarude to any of these games unless things start to look really strange and maybe we're in a game 3 scenario. So hopefully on the lead, we get the Ogerpon Cornerstone out. Ogerpon is able to go for something like an Ivy Cudgel. We do also have Follow Me on this set so that if we feel we're in any sort of danger from the Klefki getting faked out or flinch from Rock Slide or taunted, then Ogerpon at least does have the ability to follow me and redirect away any of that pressure, so Klefki can for sure get that Trick Room up and running. Klefki is also going to have screens like it always does, but we're also going to have Dazzling Gleam again, just to make sure that we're not stuck in a situation where Klefki can't do any damage. Inside the Trick Room, that's where Hisuian Gudra can really start to shine. As soon as Ogerpon gets taken off the field, the plan is to bring in the Hisuian Gudra, and then we've got a nice set of options here in terms of our move set. Flash Cannon, Ice Beam, Draco Meteor, and Muddy Water, all with a Life Orb. And we have a Stellar Terra on top, just so we can amplify that damage even more. Muddy Water is great because it gives us access to actually hit the Gliscor and the Chandelure, as well as the Terrakion, but Flash Cannon's going to be able to get the job done with that as well. I believe even without Stellar Terrestrialization, just a Flash Cannon and the Life Orb from Hisuian Goodra actually is able to get a one-hit knockout onto the Terrakion. And similarly, we have, Flash Cannon for Weavile, Jirachi, we can at least hit for neutral damage, and the Regidrago, that's what the Ice Beam is really there for. Regidrago, Whimsicott, we have Draco Meteor as well if we want to try to just go for a one-shot onto the team. And so Hisuian Goodra is going to have to put on its carry backpack and bring this team to victory. Suicune's positioning, super important in this match. As I was saying, we want to make sure that the Suicune is in on the final turn of Trick Room, and then it can actually hit Tailwind when that final Trick Room is expiring, so that we can have Hisuian Goodra have a bit more speed control while we are looking at those Tailwind turns happening at the end of the game. Suicune's also going to have some pretty good offensive options. With leftovers, it can also stall for a little bit longer, but it's got Scald and Ice Beam as its attacking moves, as well as Calm Mind if I find myself in a situation where Suicune isn't under a huge amount of threat, and maybe we get a Calm Mind up so we can actually do a bit more damage. All of this is good in theory, but we do need to try our best this week. And again, I don't think that this matchup is good. We've looked at this multiple times on paper, and it's going to be very tough. If we get one game win, or even if we make the games close and we take a couple of KOs, I think we have to consider that a win in our book. So with that being said, let's go ahead and play out our match this week versus THATSAPlusONE and the Baton Rouge Butterfrees. Let's get ready for game number 1 of our match versus THATSAPlusONE, and right away I am seeing the Whimsicott and the Terrakion as we were hoping. There's also the Regidrago, the Hisuian Zoroark, Chandelure, and the Weavile. Now, I'm definitely hoping to see the Whimsicott Terrakion lead in the front, and then maybe we'll be able to deal with something like the Regidrago later. At the very least, I think that Klefki will be able to take some of the attacks from the Regidrago just because it does have that fairy typing, but we got to try to make sure that we execute the game plan that we put forward in front of us. So Ogerpon, Klefki, and then we bring this Suicune as well as this Goodra in the back, and we hopefully game. The Weavile's a little bit unnerving. I think that it has some really good coverage into our team. Just in general, I think being able to see that what we have, I don't know if he actually does bring it, but I could see the theory of being able to have the Weavile versus something else. Chandelure, of course, will be very important for us to actually figure out what the item is on that Pokemon. If it's going to be a Choice Scarf or a Life Orb or something, those can be pretty classic items to see on a Chandelure. But we don't even know if it's going to come. So as we see our leads as we head into the game, we'll be able to get a little bit of a better idea of how we're going to navigate this game. Okay, it is going to be the Whimsicott and the Terrakion. I don't want to say that this is predictable, but I do think that it's very good that we're at least seeing the Pokemon that we would have expected. Now it's about executing. So seeing the Terrakion and the Whimsicott, I think Whimsicott could safely go for something like Beat Up, but I also could see a world where even if you go for the Beat Up, we get the Trick Room off, and then the Hisuian Goodra comes in, and it's going to take out the Terrakion anyway. We could lose our Ogerpon here. There's also a world where this Whimsicott actually goes for, like, Tailwind or something. So I think right now, oh, it's so tough. I can't decide whether I want to follow me here or if I want to just go for damage. And I think just going for damage right now into the Whimsicott to at least take it out would be very good. So we'll do that, and we'll go ahead and just go for the Trick Room, and hopefully that's going to be able to get set up here. We do see the Terrakion actually get switched over to the normal type. So I wonder what that would be for. This goes for a Dazzling Gleam. We see a critical hit come out on the Ogerpon and a critical hit on the Klefki. I definitely don't like that. But as this is a Terra Normal on the Terrakion, it actually is going to be a Hyper Voice. That is a Hisuian Zoroark for sure. We get the Ivy Cudgel damage into the Whimsicott, which is going to bring it down to a Focus Sash. But this is where I really want to thrive. This Trick Room with the Klefki being able to make our Pokemon just a little bit slower. And it works out because did you notice that we don't really have much speed investment into our Ogerpon? The Terrakion and the Whimsicott moved before we did. So now I can just try to go for some damage here. I obviously want to get the Ogerpon kind of off the field as quickly as possible. But maybe I think about just going in for some just general damage onto this Zoroark. So I'll do that. The rest of the team here is actually pretty special. Bulky, so I think I'm just gonna go for a light screen. Even though we do keep the Whimsicott on the field, I think having the screen set up for the Hisuian Goodra and the Suicune in the back is going to be more important than anything. We also get the screen up before the Whimsicott actually goes for an Encore, which was totally planned out, by the way. So even though we do get locked into having to go for another screen, it's honestly fine. We get the knockout into the Hisuian Zoroark, and then we're going to try to go from there. Sorry, guys. I'm very sick, so I'm going to try my best to talk about the game as we go, but it's certainly much tougher. I'm just going to go for a Horn Leech, and I know maybe I just have to kind of sacrifice the Klefki here. We do have 3 more turns of Trick Room. Now, I kind of don't mind like keeping the Klefki, and hopefully it just gets knocked out at some point. I might need to consider actually taking out the Suicune, but of course because it's Prankster, I do have to go for another Ivy Cudgel here. I think I'm honestly okay with that. Just being able to get rid of the Whimsicott is going to be perfect, and that does leave that's a +1 down to his final 2 Pokemon. Sacred Sword into the Klefki, it actually doesn't knock it out. Maybe that's even better for us because we're hoping that we don't have to bring in the Suicune too early, so it actually doesn't take too much damage. The Regidrago being here, though, is certainly not ideal. I think that the Regidrago is the biggest threat, though, to the rest of the team, and we know we can one-shot this Terrakion later, so it's now just about trying to hang on as long as possible. So I'm just gonna set myself up. Hopefully Suicune gets to come in on the final turn of Trick Room, which is going to be the next turn. And so at least something has to get knocked out here. Ivy Cudgel into the Regidrago means that there's going to be much less attack coming out from the Dragon Energy. And with the Rock Slide attacking both Pokemon, we actually do finally get our Klefki removed from the field. And Ogerpon, I think, will quickly follow. Just the fact that we do have this Regidrago left. The plan is going according to plan, and it feels good to see that happen, but the job's not done yet. Suicune and Goodra now get to come in, and Goodra still has speed control. That's the best part about it coming in at this particular time, is we still have the speed control as an option. As we take a look, we do have 1 more turn of the Trick Room, and it's really tempting here because Regidrago is actually quite a fast Pokemon. I think because of how slow Hisuian Goodra is, I don't even know if I need to reveal that I have Tailwind. So I'm just gonna go for the Flash Cannon with the Stellar Terra, and hopefully we just get the 1-2 punch. I don't exactly remember how fast Suicune is, but if we just knock out the Regidrago anyway, then we win the game. There's only 2 Pokemon left, and Hisuian Goodra can absolutely go for it here. Protect, it makes sense. I think in that case, it might have been better for me to go for the Tailwind, but of course, Suicune has the option to go for the Ice Beam, and Regidrago certainly, I think, as long as it gets knocked out here, we're still in good shape. Yeah, I think if I wanted to really lock up the game, maybe I'd go for the Tailwind, but he can't hit both Pokemon here. So I think right now, I'm just going to go for the Scald and the Flash Cannon, and I think that should lock things up. Sacred Sword is certainly very effective, but we have looked at the training for this because we didn't see any damage get taken from our Goodra during those Trick Room turns. We knew it would be able to survive. That is a reveal of the berry, though. It's a Lum Berry, so we can't just go for something like a Will-O-Wisp in a subsequent game. But the Flash Cannon gear seals it up, and that was a clean first game. Even getting the critical hit on top, but we did it! That's the first game under our belt. I kind of can't believe it. Now we have to think about what to do for game number 2, but for now we know that first game plan, it does work. Okay. We win game number 1, and now it's about what we do for the second game. I think we just go with the same game plan. It worked the first time. I think I need to kind of put him into a position where he needs to change something on his end in order to actually work around it. So no change-ups here. We're still gonna go Ogerpon Cornerstone. We're still gonna go Klefki. And I think just going for Suicune and Goodra again. I want to think about this a little bit, though, because Whimsicott showed us Encore and Dazzling Gleam. And I think there's 2 more moves that it didn't reveal yet. And I have a feeling that it's very possible that it could just be... Could be Taunt. Could be Taunt. But then if the Whimsicott is going for Taunt, I don't know if I actually care. Well, we're not going to see the Whimsicott in the lead this time around. It's going to be the Chandelure as well as the Weavile. How much do you think we might actually see an Imprison Trick Room set from this Chandelure? I don't know. It does have a Steel Terra type, so it's not as easy for me to be able to go for just like a generic Ivy Cudgel. It's certainly something I'm going to have to think about, but if I do actually get out the... If I get out the Terra from the Chandelure... I think it would be okay. I think I'm just gonna go for it. I think we have to do the same thing. And I think he has to put... Yeah, I think he has to figure out how to deal with it. Chandelure is certainly a Pokemon that could do that, but it does go for the Steel Terra, as I would have thought. It wants to be able to get around the Ivy Cudgel. If it does have Imprisoned Trick Room, I don't know how much that really benefits. But we see the triple axle. Every hit is going to hurt just a little bit more. As long as you don't... Yeah. If you miss, then that would have been really nice. But unfortunately, it does get all 3 hits. And this is certainly a way that we might not have been able to see that coming. Chandelure goes for Minimize, though. It actually doesn't have Imprison at all. That is going to be very challenging now to actually get through. Yeah, Minimize Chandelure actually kind of goes a little crazy here. It would have been nice to be able to deal with the Goodra. Or, sorry, deal with the Weavile in that last one. We know that there isn't a Focus Sash on the Weavile because the Focus Sash was on the Whimsicott. So I still think we're in a position where we can just go for the Terrestrialization here. We're not actually removing any of our weaknesses because it's the Stellar Terra. I still think we can go after this Weavile. Definitely nervous about the Chandelure, but this team is still very special attack heavy, so I'll go for the light screen now. I get to get the reflect up on the next turn as well, as it is going to be the Terrakion that takes the field. I'm kind of okay with this because the Weavile, as it is as fast as it is, maybe this is just another Pokemon we can knock out while this Trick Room is still active. And then you have to bring the Weavile back in, or you have to show me your fourth and final Pokemon. And at least for now, we are going to have the light screen up for the Chandelure, which also makes me feel better about leaving the Chandelure on the field. And that is a one-hit knockout into the Terrakion. Now that's a +1 either needs to bring the Weavile back in, or we actually need to see something else. And it does have Trick Room. Ooh, that's very spicy. So going for Trick Room means that we don't have that speed control anymore, but we still have some wiggle room. It also kind of depends on what he decides to bring out. We knew that the Sacred Sword wasn't enough, and I kind of wonder what else this Weavile has that would certainly make this a difficult fight. I think I'm just going to put the Reflect up anyway because we're going to have double screens. I can always set the Trick Room back up later. But at this point too, we do have another Pokemon in the back. The Suicune is still going to be very good against this Chandelure. The triple axles are stacking up, and so Goodra gets taken down to about half HP. As Chandelure goes for Minimize again, it's going to be hard to actually hit the Chandelure. But that's one more Pokemon down. We'll see what the fourth and final is for That's a +1 in the back. But the fact that our Hisuian Goodra is still alive is a very good thing. That fourth and final is going to be the Regidrago. Definitely not great. I would have loved to be able to just see... I think I need to do that. I think I need to get the Suicune in and do some damage. Maybe save the Hisuian Goodra for later. I could also set back up the Trick Room, but at that point, Chandelure can just go and reset it. Or if Chandelure gives itself the Trick Room, that's certainly something that I have to think about here. But with the Dragon Energy, it's going to be Suicune that takes it instead. Nice that we have the light screen up, and I think if we can see Suicune survive to the next turn, then we can get the Tailwind and actually get Goodra in under Tailwind. That would be perfect. A little bit of chip onto this Regidrago, and if this is going to be some sort of choice specs or just some sort of choice locked set, then Dragon Energy is going to be doing less and less every single turn. No idea if that's the case. It's kind of hard to tell with the light screen active. But this is a Tailwind moment for sure. And just another opportunity for us to go for the Dazzling Gleam. And see, every single turn it is going to be doing a little bit more and more. It's a substitute on the Chandelure. Minimize, substitute, Trick Room, and what in the world could its attacking move be? I don't know. You would have to imagine that it's Heat Wave, right? You would have to imagine that the Chandelure's moveset is Minimize, Trick Room, Substitute, and like Heat Wave or Shadow Ball, right? Or at least that's what I would think. All right, we have 3 turns of Tailwind now. I can just go for the KO onto the Regidrago. And then just keep hoping that I'm able to do some damage to, yeah, the Chandelure. I think in another instance, maybe if I calculated that out better, I would be able to go for the KO with the Dazzling Gleam and then we get a Calm Mind boost actually onto the Suicune. But it is Heat Wave. Suicune avoids the attack, which is great. Klefki avoids it too, no way. Oh, that's such good luck for us and such bad luck there for That's a +1. I definitely feel a little bad about that. But we're going to be playing those games too. I'm going to just put myself into a position where we get Calm Mind here as well as another Light Screen. Light Screen will mean that we will take much less from these Heat Waves if they do actually connect. And it's nice that the Chandelure does not have some type of boost. So we get to go for the Calm Mind. It increases our special attack as well as our special defense. And it gives us even better sustain into the Heat Wave. Heat Wave connects with us both this time. And at a certain point, this Klefki is going to get knocked out. But Suicune, I hope, with the leftovers recovery and just being able to get a couple of Calm Mind boosts alongside the fact that the Light Screen is still in effect, hopefully that will be able to get us over the line to victory. Reflect at this point, I really don't care about. There's nothing here that is going to bother us. I think I'm going to just try to go for another Calm Mind. We are a water type, so I'm not really nervous about us getting knocked out to a single Heat Wave. So we'll go for 2, and I think 2 is a good stopping point. We actually need to start pushing some damage over the line. Hopefully the Heat Wave connects onto our Klefki, and then that will get knocked out, and we can actually bring in the Goodra for this instance. We're doing really good in terms of taking these Heat Waves, though, from the Chandelure at this point with the Calm Minds as well as just the leftovers recovery. We are getting quite a bit back. Now, I kind of wonder, though, is there anything that can bypass the accuracy check that we have put onto our team? I do not think so. But this is the point where we just need to start pushing the gas. Heat Wave. Klefki avoids the attack again. I actually need Klefki to go down here. It's so important. But if it survives long enough that the... Oh, we got burned. But if it survives long enough that we do actually... Oh, we hit the Scald! That's a big deal. So minimize. Now the substitute is gone. We actually have a clear line to be able to hit the Chandelure, and we actually do weave in a little bit of Dazzling Gleam damage too. Not too bad. But maybe there's a world where the Klefki survives long enough, we get another Light Screen. And I don't know, Suicune still, I think, is sitting quite comfortable outside of something like a critical hit. Yeah, we got burned, but the leftovers recovery is at least keeping the Suicune in the game for quite some time. I just want to double check. Tailwind is over. I do think maybe having a Tailwind here is important. I think if the Chandelure decides to go for another substitute, then we want to make sure that we actually have the Tailwind for more speed control when the Goodra comes back in. And of course, like, we're gonna have to see the substitute, but I would ideally like to have Suicune and Klefki on the field at the same time, or sorry, Suicune and Goodra on the field at the same time together. Minimize also has very diminishing returns at the end of the day, but now this is where I certainly need to check my moves. We've got Ice Beam. Muddy Water might also be an okay thing to hit, just because it does have the chance of lowering accuracy, but the accuracy of the move itself is only 85%, so I don't feel like it's going to be that good. Certainly not something that... Yeah. Oh my goodness, we might actually just get minimized. Oh no. Well, at least the Klefki is gone, and now we can get the Goodra in. There's only one more turn of Light Screen, I think. If not, this is the final one. And so Goodra doesn't have that right now, but we still have options. Man, it's tough because I'd like to hit it with Muddy Water, or I would like to hit it with Draco Meteor. Neither of those moves are particularly strong. And especially with just the Ice Beam damage, I think, into the Steel type. I don't think that that does us many favors here. So we just have to hope that at some point we do connect on some of these moves. That would be great. I just have to connect here. Scald, and then I think my best bet is still going to be Muddy Water despite the accuracy. We just have to hope that something hits. And I think at this point as well, I might just need to try to stall it out here. Suicune avoids the attack. The Goodra does not get quite so lucky. But with no burn. Oh, it does get burned. Okay. I don't know how much time we have left in this game. I think if I were thinking about this as the Shandy substitute endgame, I think I would have thought maybe about trying to stall this out a little bit longer, but I do not think that that's going to be the case. I think I just have to hope that, I don't know. I could go for another Calm Mind, but I feel like it's not doing anything since we have to get past this sub anyway. Yeah, because Scald comes through. Oh, we actually hit with the Muddy Water. That's good. Even though it's not a very accurate move, it's quite nice that we actually do get to break the substitute here. And on this next turn, if we can hit with the Chandelure, if we can hit with the Scald, that would be a huge deal. And even though the Heat Wave comes through, it's still not doing very much damage. Hopefully we can just survive long enough. Or on this next turn, we simply hit the Scald and win the game. But the fact that the Chandelure has leftovers recovery as well is crazy. It's gonna be tough to actually break through this. Alright, I don't have Tailwind anymore, but I don't need it. I don't think. I'm still faster. We just have to hit it. Please, please hit. Please hit the Scald. Please hit. Please, 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 please. Oh, it is faster! I do need the Tailwind. No! I should have thought about that. But, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Maybe I should have tried to stall it. It might have to be a stall game, guys. At least try? The HP differentials don't look very good, but it's also about the amount of HP that you have left in comparison to the rest of your team. I think I just have to try to hit the Scald. And now the Chandelure is moving before us anyway, so if there is a crit that comes through, we just, yeah, we're just gonna get wailed away. Oh no. I could go for the Tailwind here. Does that give me another chance? I think I have to go for the Tailwind. At least it gives me the opportunity to go for a Scald. The win condition now, go for the Tailwind, go Scald, Scald, and hope that they will both hit. Because I think that's the sauce there. Ooh, it's close. I don't actually think we get knocked out on the next turn. But I do have to hit the Scald now, and I miss. Oh, what a bummer. All right, we're gonna lose this game number 2. Wait, oh, but they missed the Heat Wave. Wait. Is it not over yet? We didn't take any damage. Okay, we didn't take any damage, but we're also not doing any damage, so I'm not really sure how that's actually going to stack up. But now I certainly lock in a Scald, and now we have the same win condition open, Scald, Scald. I don't hit the Scald anyway, so that is unfortunate. So, oh man. Oh boy. I think even if I hit the Scald at this point, I think I lose anyway. Yeah. Ah. That was a well-played game. I really thought we put ourselves in a position to take out the Chandelure, but I think leaving it alone for as long as we did was certainly not the right call. So, okay, unfortunately, we do lose that game. Major credit to THATSAPlusONE for finding the line at the end to take this game, and we go to a game number 3. In game number 3, I have to prepare for the fact that it could be a Hisuian Zoroark and Whimsicott lead. It could be a Terrakion Whimsicott lead. It could also be that same Weavile Chandelure lead that we saw in that second game. But there could also just be a world where THATSAPlusONE decides to go Tailwind, Regidrago, blow things up with Dragon Energy. But I do think maybe this time around, if we can just go for... I think we'll go for Ogerpon and Suicune in the front, Klefki as well as Scudra in the back. I don't see a world where bringing Pawmot actually does a whole lot here for us, unless we decided for that to be our 4th and final Pokemon. But I think this is the ticket. I'm still worried about something like the Sacred Sword, but the Goodra was so good for us. I think knowing that we do have that extra offense, maybe when showing the fact that we've already done a one-hit knockout with the like the Stellar Terra, the Life Orb, maybe that's a +1. Doesn't feel so comfortable to be able to bring the Terrakion. And it is a run back of the leads from game number 2, so we have to deal with the Chandelure as well as this Weavile. Now, Weavile, we've only seen the triple axle from it so far, and Chandelure in this state can still go for the like Steel Terra, as well as just going for a minimize right off the bat. But I think triple axle, if I do terrasilize the Ogerpon, I think maybe we are able to just go for the Ivy Cudgel into the Weavile anyway. But I think maybe we just try to play it a little bit safe here. I need to set up this Suicune for success. I'm not super pressured by the Weavile going for an Ice-type attack into the Suicune, and I like that we're protecting the Ogerpon this time around. It is going to be an Icy Wind, though. So Icy Wind, to get the speed drop, it does drop the speed of the Suicune by 1, and it means that the Chandelure is for sure going to be faster. But it's Hyper Voice. It's actually not the Chandelure at all. This is the Zoroark. That's the Zoroark. Shandy is the back. Shandy is in the back as the 4th and final Pokemon, but that is definitely going to be the Hisuian Zoroark. Honestly, it makes this a little bit easier. I think this is where I do Terra the Ogerpon, I think. I still need to sort of think about this a little bit. Suicune did take quite a bit of damage, and I could honestly just go for something like the Follow Me, but the fact that the Weavile went for the Icy Wind, I can't redirect away both of those attacks, but I know it's the Zoroark. So maybe I will keep the... Yeah, I think I'll try to just get rid of this... I know it's the Zoroark. I think I'm just going to try to hit the Weavile. We're going to keep the Ogerpon for later, and it's nice that the Klefki is going to switch in to take that triple axle. Now we have the option to set up screens. Critical hit, whatever, not a really huge deal in this matchup, but it is just going to be another Hyper Voice. I'm taking a lot of damage, and that damage is certainly going to be stuff that starts to stack up. But now that the Klefki is in, I think being able to just set up a light screen here will make sure that we can actually survive this Zoroark. And I also know that that's a Zoroark. I could just go for a Tailwind here, I think, if I wanted to. But I think I genuinely need to actually just start doing damage. That Hyper Voice is very annoying, actually. We'll go for Light Screen. We're going to deal with the with the Chandelure. Triple Axle does quite a bit of work here. Does Suicune actually get to move? No, it doesn't. Oh my god, the light screen is so clutch, though. The Scald is a one-hit knockout into the Zoroark, but we still know that that Chandelure is in the back, and it is so fast. I almost half wish that I would have been able to go for a Tailwind at a certain point. Triple Axle can miss, but it's tough now because I feel like the Suicune is probably not going to be able to do enough in this game. I think I just have to go for Dazzling Gleam here on the Klefki, but this Weavile is just so fast. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to set up the screens here. And if for some reason we get the Tailwind up, we get the Tailwind up. But either way, we wouldn't be able to move regardless. So I'm going to go for a Reflect. I'm going to hope that maybe the Terrakion or the Weavile misses a move. But it's going to be the Weavile that actually just goes for the beat up into this Terrakion. If we're able to get up this Tailwind, then I think we're in a very good position. But with this Terrakion having the beat up, I think we should expect a Rock Slide. So something has to miss. Like, I just have to pray at this point that there's going to be a miss, but there isn't. So the Suicune actually does get knocked out, and the Klefki would have stayed alive. Maybe had I tried to go for something like the Trick Room, it would have been nice, but it's literally living on 1 HP. So there was certainly no chance. Like, there was absolutely no chance that that was going to happen. I think this is quite bad. I think that we're not looking super hard right now. Definitely not. I could go for Spiky Shield, but I think that at this point, I might need to hope that I get the Trick Room, and then maybe we do just go for an Ivy Cudgel into the Weavile. Because then we know we're going to actually be slower than the Terrakion and Trick Room, and I think just going for the Terraslization onto the Ogerpon anyway is a good idea. Not only do I remove quite a bit of my weakness to the Triple Axle, but if we do see the Terrakion actually go for the Rock Slide again, that's something that isn't going to hit super hard either, and we still have the defense in place. Okay, it's Faint. I think that's cute, just to be able to break and protect. Sacred Sword, of course, is still going to do so much damage. And because of the Justified boost, it just ends up getting taken out in one hit. That's super frustrating. I don't like that we already expended our terrestrialization there. But at this point, I think I just have to try to go after the Terrakion. I'll go for Dazzling Gleam, and I think that should be able to pick up the KO onto the Weavile. And even if the Terrakion does go for the Protect, we should be able to get it knocked out on the next turn before the Chandelure comes in. So I don't think that this game is over by any means. Klefki is very slow. It's slower than both of these Pokemon. We should be able to get a Dazzling Gleam off before we actually see that Chandelure hit the field. So a Protect from the Terrakion, it does make a lot of sense. Weavile, I guess, could also just technically go for Faint, and it does. So it's able to get the knockout before the Klefki gets a chance to move. So that's certainly not an ideal situation. But Weavile knows Faint, it knows Triple Axle, and I actually don't know what else it knows. But I still think that this Terrakion is by far the biggest problem. If we're able to even get it switched off the field, then we do have an ability to hit it later. Like, it gets rid of all the boosts, so that would be super nice. This is a Terra, so it's going to be the Ghost Terra. And unfortunately now, I don't think that the Flash Cannon is going to be enough without the Stellar Terra boost. But time to find out. I mean, Gudra's able to do a lot. Unfortunately, just not quite enough here. So I think Sacred Sword is going to finish off the job. And yeah, that's it for this game and this set. Very great adjustments coming through from That's a +1 for this week. That Chandelure gave me a ton of trouble. And it's going to be That's a +1 that comes up with the match win this week. So GG's. Oh, well, that's going to do it for our match versus That's a +1 for this week. Unfortunately, we do lose the week 1-2. That first game felt flawless, though. It felt like we had the right game plan. We were able to execute it and get that first game win. And then it kind of started to fall apart after that. That second game, That's a +1, made a great adjustment to be able to bring the Chandelure as well as the Weavile. And while we could have expected a lot of what the Weavile had in terms of beat up, the Triple Axle, as well as the Faint, that Chandelure with minimize, leftovers, substitute was so wild. I was certainly not prepared to deal with something like that. I thought maybe it could have something like Trick Room and Imprison, but even that felt like such a stretch when we haven't indexed for Trick Room at all in our first couple of weeks. But that just goes to show you the forward thinking that That's a +1 had for the matchup. And once we lost that speed control in the second game, I think at that point, when we're at the end game, where it is the Gudra and the Suicune versus the Chandelure, it wasn't enough damage to get through the substitute as well as the leftovers recovery. And then in that game number 3, I think just leading both of those same things again, but then seeing the Hisui and Zoroark, I might have needed to punish that sooner. Seeing the Chandelure, I did kind of expect that it would end up being another run back of the game 2 game plan, but the fact that it ended up being the Zoroark, seeing the Hyper Voice right away, unfortunately I think Suicune just took too much damage, and that stacked up over the course of the first couple of turns. Seeing that Scald took it out in one hit, though, it does make me believe that maybe if I had actually knocked out the Chandelure sooner, that would have been a really great way to deal with the game. Otherwise, there was a potential there for me to have also sent a Scald into the Weavile, and if that had been a quick KO, I would have denied the possibility of going for beat up with the Terrakion. And then I get into the end game where Hisui and Gudra can actually survive a Sacred Sword and maybe even my Ogerpon, and that could have been a game win there. So I'm definitely looking at the first couple of turns of game 3, and I think different targeting does actually get me the game win. But alas, Unfortunately, not a win for us. It was always going to be a super difficult matchup when we looked at it on paper. And so the fact that I was even able to get a game win, I think I can be super proud of that. Especially when I'm also I'm like crazy sick. I had to take breaks from recording this because I've been coughing and sneezing and just being sick. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this week. GG's again to That's a Plus One for the win. We are unfortunately going to be 1-3 so far in the Shuckle Premier League, but we still have a couple of weeks to be able to turn it around. Next week, we play against Olivia and the ZUA Harbor Glaze Lilligans, so can't wait to see you guys there.